that the FBI can continuing the historic achievements it's done in these last 7 months. When you're talking about firings, you're looking for a media hit and a fundraising clip, and I'm not going to give it to you.
It doesn't matter under what basis they left. I just want to know how many have left. And I think your testimony is nobody has left. Next question.
Nope,
Which
that's
field-
not my testimony. You asked it one time. I answered it one time. You didn't get the answer you wanted for your clip,
Next
so you keep
question.
asking it, and I told you I'd get you the numbers. But
Welcome to Liberty Report USA. Let's take a look at what happened in the Senate today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, just like the rest of the federal government, there have been significant personnel changes at the FBI since President Trump took office. I want to better understand the scope of the turnover and the changes occurring at the FBI. Since January 2025, how many FBI employees have retired, resigned, been fired, or otherwise separated from employment? I need a number.
we'll get you a number.
What is the number? You don't have it?
Not off the top of my head, and I want to get you the right number.
Would it surprise you to know that it's probably in the thousands, like 5,000?
I don't think that number's
Well,
accurate.
you don't know. Next question. How many special agents or analysts have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Say, we will get you the numbers, and anyone that retires is of their own volition, and anyone that is terminated at the FBI, as I've said before, is done so because they have failed to meet the standards and uphold their loyalty and oath to the Constitution.
Yeah, so you say. Next question. How many executive assistant directors, or special agents in charge have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Again, people leaving on their own accord or terminations were done by the standards set at the FBI that have been carried out
With this question, I'm getting
consistently.
to the leadership of the FBI, and you don't have that answer. Next question. Which field office, division, or directorate has lost the most personnel since January 2025? And do you have the answer to that question?
Yeah, actually, every single field office in the country, including Hawaii, has received a plus-up of FBI agents because we're pushing them out to the field.
Okay, so you're telling me that no field office, division, or directorate has lost any personnel since January 20th, 2025? That's your answer?
In Hawaii, there's been a plus-up. In every single state that I'm looking at, we have allocated a plus-up for field offices across the country so that the FBI can continuing the historic achievements it's done in these last 7 months. When you're talking about firings, you're looking for a media hit and a fundraising clip, and I'm not going to give it to you.
It doesn't matter under what basis they left. I just want to know how many have left. And I think your testimony is nobody has left. Next question.
Nope,
Which
that's
field-
not my testimony. You asked it one time. I answered it one time. You didn't get the answer you wanted for your clip,
Next
so you keep
question.
asking it, and I told you I'd get you the numbers, but you can keep asking it.
Which field office, division, or directorate has gained the most personnel since January 2025? You noted that there have been plus-ups, so which offices have received these plus-ups?
The greatest allocation that I believe was given to California and then Florida.
Where were those offices?
California and Florida.
Thank you. Director Patel, you often refer to FBI agents as cops. All of us, Democrats and Republicans, support the police officers who keep our communities safe. But while our states, cities, counties, and towns all employ police officers to protect our communities, Congress has empowered and equipped the FBI to take on missions that local police cannot, especially taking on terrorists, hackers, and spies. I'd like to assess how well the FBI is able to handle its specialized missions under your leadership. The FBI is the nation's lead federal law enforcement agency for investigating and preventing acts of domestic and international terrorism. And yet the executive assistant directors in charge of the FBI's national security and intelligence branches were both forced out at the beginning of the year. Who replaced them in those positions?
Excellent qualified personnel to lead the mission of arresting 23,000 violent criminals this year alone.
Are the
That's twice
names
as many
of the
as
people
before.
who took the places of
I'm not
the-
going to give you any names so you can attack them.
Why not?
So you can attack them. I'm not doing that. The
You're not
people
gonna
sitting
give
in
me the
those seats
names
are
of-
extremely qualified to handle the job. We
You're not
would
gonna
not
give
have
me
the
the names
results.
of
We would
personnel who
not
should
have
be
the
on your-
reduction
Right,
of
fine,
violence in the
moving
state
on.
of Hawaii if we did not allocate the
Earlier
resources we
this
did.
year, FBI counterterrorist special agents and investigators were reassigned to assist with immigration enforcement. Reportedly, these counterterrorism experts were returned to the jobs they trained for in late January after Iran threatened to retaliate for our strikes on their nuclear facilities. Have those experts remained in the jobs they trained for since that time? Yes or no?
FBI agents' primary responsibility is exactly what they are assigned to do. We always work with our
So since they
interagency
returned to their positions,
If you're not
are
going to
they
let
still
me
in
answer,
those
why don't you
positions?
just do your soliloquy in the 4.5 minutes you have
I am
left?
not asking for a soliloquy. It's just a yes or no. Are those people who were returned to their jobs still on those jobs? Yes or no?
They never left.
What was that?
They never left their primary job. It is a surge of resources in law enforcement working with the interagency to combat violent crime and reduce
They were
violent
never,
crime in
okay, they were never
historic
reassigned to do immigration.
proportions.
That's your testimony. Okay, Director Patel, the FBI is also the lead federal agency for investigating cyber attacks and
Yes.
cyber intrusions, both by foreign nation states and by non-state hacker groups. Since President Trump's inauguration, the executive assistant director in charge of the criminal and cyber branch and the head of the FBI's cyber division have both left the FBI. What are the names of the people who replace them in those positions?
The cyber branch is one of the most impressive at the FBI. 409 arrests this year, 169 convictions. That's a 42% increase from the same time last year.
It's that
So
branch,
any
Mr.
suggestion that
Patel.
the FBI cyber division is not operating at full capacity and better than ever before, the leadership at the branch is implementing these changes necessary to attack the cyber and ransomware infrastructure operators
You know
for Iran,
why
China,
they're
and Russia.
important? I want to know who has those positions, since the people who originally were there,
Supremely
are no longer
qualified
there.
individuals have those positions.
are they?
Supremely qualified
Who
individuals.
are they? What are the names?
You're not
You
getting
don't
them.
know. Special agents who investigate cybercrime were also reassigned for immigration enforcement. Have those expert investigators returned to their duties? Yes or no?
All agents remained on their primary duties while surging to allocate resources for interagency operations to the Homeland Security task forces across this country.
So are you,
Am I what?
see, I'm not getting the yes or no answers. I get all this explanation, so there you go.
No, you get the work that
Are
the men
you
and women of the
planning
FBI are doing. And you
Any
don't want that.
additional personnel cuts to the cyber division in the future?
The only people that will be terminated at the FBI will be those that violate their oath of office or fail to meet the high standards at the FBI.
Director Patel, the FBI is meant to be the tip of the spear in combating terrorism against the United States from both foreign and domestic sources. It's also our lead agency in fighting the hackers who target our businesses and critical infrastructure. But instead of a specialized role fighting these kinds of terrorists, hackers, and spies, you have the FBI playing the role of local police and helping with immigration enforcement. I'm going to move on to my, you've been asking some questions about the changes to your hiring standard, and including college degrees and possibly the age. But, one question I had is that you are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences. Are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring a physical program at BFTC at Quantico because FBI agents carrying guns in the field have to chase down bad guys and do really hard work. The physical fitness standards of those agents
So
are
are
being
you requiring
appropriately
these
assessed.
kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring everybody to pass the 1811 standards at BFTC. If you want to chase down a bad guy
Excuse me,
and put
the
him in
reason I
handcuffs, you
asked-
better be able to do a pull-up.
The reason I ask is that there are concerns about whether or not being able to do these kinds of harsh pull-ups is really required of FBI agents.
Doing one
Anyway,
pull-up
Mr.
is not
Patel,
harsh,
I
and there are
am
always
gravely
medical
concerned.
exemptions to that.
I am gravely concerned by the state of the FBI under your control. And in fact, you are willing to take a cut on your agency of almost $500 million. So the FBI is losing dedicated employees, decades of expertise and specialization, leading to loss to early retirements, firings, and reassignments to immigration enforcement or conducting local police work. Thousands have already left. For as long as you remain as the head of the FBI, I fear the number of departures and summary firings will continue to grow. Mr. Patel, before the vote on your nomination of this committee, I noted that your most significant qualification, this is not just something that I noted, but others, your most significant qualification was your 100% loyalty to President Trump. And I fear that that continues to be the motivating factor in your position as FBI Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor, Mr. Chairman.
Director Patel, did you have
Yes.
anything you wanted to say now?
That is an entire falsehood. You can delete my 16 years of government service to multiple administrations all you want. The fact is that I was a public defender. I was a national security prosecutor. I was a House intelligence staffer. I was a deputy director of intelligence. I was a chief of staff to the Department of Defense and the Secretary of Defense. I led the counterterrorism missions for the White House. Those are just some of the jobs I held in my 16-year career. There was no loyalty then. There's no loyalty now to anything but the Constitution.
Senator Britt.
Yes. Well, before I begin, I want to thank Senator Hirono for what she said, acknowledging that there are physical differences between men and women. Talking about that women wouldn't be able to do as many pull-ups, and I think that she was making a case here that there should be different standards. There's a thing called Title IX, and this is why we continue to say we should have biological men and men's sports and biological women and women's sports. And so I look forward to utilizing that to talk to all of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Maybe they will stand with us in helping us protect women's sports. I think she made a great argument there for it. Moving on to...
In the final moments of this hearing, we watched a confrontation that was as sharp as it was revealing. A clash not only of personalities, but of governing philosophies, of competing visions for how power should be wielded in a democracy. It began with Senator Mazie Hirono's relentless demand for clarity about the internal upheaval at the FBI. Names, numbers, departures, firings. And it collided head-on with Director Kash Patel's refusal to give her the direct answers she sought. It was a moment defined by tension, by frustration, and by the unmistakable sense that two very different realities were colliding in real time. Her questions were simple on the surface. How many employees had left? Which offices were losing staff? Who replaced top leaders? And why were they forced out? But each time those questions were posed, they met the same resistance. A kind of stone walling wrapped in assertions of constitutional loyalty, operational secrecy, and strategic necessity. Patel stood firm, insisting that the FBI was not losing its edge, that reassigned agents had never left their primary job, that the Bureau was making historic achievements, and that any suggestion otherwise was nothing more than political theater. And then came the breaking point, the accusation that hung in the air like a thunderclap. Senator Hirono charged that the FBI under Patel's leadership was being hollowed out, shedding expertise, rerouting highly trained personnel into unrelated enforcement tasks, and suffering departures in the thousands. She warned that the Bureau's most specialized capabilities were being compromised, that its mission was drifting away from critical national defense priorities. And she ended with the most explosive claim of all, that Patel's most significant qualification for the role was his loyalty to the president. Patel fired back instantly. No hesitation, no softening. He defended his record with almost visceral force, laying out his resume in rapid sequence. Public defender, national security prosecutor, intelligence staffer, counterterrorism leader. He rejected the accusation of political loyalty with a tone that was both wounded and defiant, insisting that every step of his 16-year career was built not on allegiance to any individual, but on a commitment, exclusive, unyielding, to the Constitution. This exchange wasn't merely a disagreement. It wasn't just a tense moment in a routine oversight hearing. It was a window into something deeper. The ongoing struggle over the very identity of America's institutions. One senator demanding transparency, one director insisting on trust without details. One side seeing departures and realignments as symptoms of decay. The other portraying them as signs of renewal and reform. Both convinced that the stakes are nothing less than national security itself. And in that clash of conviction, we see the modern state laid bare. Powerful, divided, and perpetually pulled between competing visions of what accountability means. This is what political friction looks like in a polarized era. Not quiet negotiations behind closed doors, but televised battles where every question, every answer, every interruption carries the weight of a broader cultural conflict. It is here, in these charged exchanges, that we glimpse the fault lines running through the American system. Questions about transparency, about loyalty, about competence, about the balance between secrecy and accountability. When Senator Hirono pushed Patel for yes or no answers, she wasn't simply trying to make a point. She was testing whether the American public could still expect direct answers from its most powerful law enforcement agency. And when Patel refused to reveal names or concede ground on numbers, he wasn't simply being evasive. He was asserting that leadership requires discretion, that revealing too much would endanger real people doing dangerous work, and that oversight must not become a weapon used to target those who serve. But beneath all of it, beneath the accusations, beneath the defensive posture, beneath the political theater, lies a bigger question. A question that has haunted American institutions for decades. Who is the FBI accountable to? And who decides when accountability becomes vulnerability? We saw a director who believes that the mission comes first, that results justify the methods, and that critics do not grasp the scale of the work being done behind the scenes. We saw a senator who believes that secrecy without scrutiny becomes a danger of its own, that institutions drift without oversight, and that power, any power, must be checked before it calcifies into something unrecognizable. Two worldviews, two definitions of duty, two claims to defending the American people. The tension between them is not going away. It is not a momentary disagreement or a rare outburst. It is, in many ways, the new normal in American governance, a constant negotiation between those who demand answers and those who believe the answers cannot always be given. But for millions of Americans watching from beyond these walls, the deeper issue is trust. Trust in institutions, trust in leadership, trust in the idea that those who swear an oath to the Constitution, to the nation, to public service, will uphold it with integrity, clarity, and accountability. When that trust falters, hearings like this become more than political sparring. They become milestones. Markers of public confidence rising or falling, signals of where the country is headed. And today's hearing left the nation with hard questions, a sense of unresolved tension, a feeling that something fundamental remains unsettled. Whether the FBI is being strengthened or weakened, whether transparency is being honored or evaded, whether loyalty is being defined by service or by politics. In the end, it is up to the American people to decide which narrative reflects their truth and which voice they believe is speaking for the future of this country. Because the story unfolding in these hearings is not merely about one director or one senator, it is about the soul of American institutions and whether they can still endure scrutiny without shattering under the weight of partisan distrust. If you believe these moments matter, if you believe oversight must be seen, not hidden. If you believe the American people deserve transparency, courage, and accountability. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA. Stand with us as we continue to shine a light on the places where power resists inspection and where the truth still demands to be heard.